Well, hello and welcome once again to another edition of Hude Hour. As today we'll be tackling a very serious issue, as we always do, to bring to you issues within the humanitarian and development space. I remain, as always, Amadine Ugbewe.
And I'm Hannah Omokafe Danes. Welcome on board.
Hello, Hannah. How are you doing today?
Hi, Amadi. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. What's it like being here again to once again chart the course for development, humanitarian efforts and so on? It
feels powerful.
Indeed.
It's like our words right now are going to be the power to push the word into further good things. So I'm excited about it.
Indeed, and that's why I like, especially when we get to speak to change makers here, people who are trying, sometimes what we encounter is a person or people are trying to make a difference and nobody's listening. So, when we're able to reach out to people and talk to them and they're excited because they need this development journey or message to reach as far and wide, and that's why we're here. Yeah, so today, let's take it to education. Across many parts of the world, inclusive education remains more of a goal than a reality. While efforts to expand access to schooling have made progress, large numbers of children are still being left behind, particularly those with disabilities and other intersecting vulnerabilities.
From inaccessible learning materials to systemic discrimination, the barriers are wide-ranging. And for children with multiple challenges, such as poverty, displacement, or gender-based exclusion, the risks of never entering or completing school are even higher.
It's quite sad. Today on Hude Hour, we examine what inclusive education really means, why millions of children are still excluded, and what reforms are needed to ensure no learner is overlooked. But before that, here are our headlines. Education unions push for inclusive learning at Global Disability Summit. Nigerian government reaffirms commitment to inclusive education. We'll take these and more after the break. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Now, an estimated 291.2 million children and adolescents globally live with a disability, and 95% of them are in low and middle income countries. Children with disabilities are 2.5 times more likely to never attend school compared to their peers.
That's right. And in some contexts, especially in low and middle income countries, up to 90% of children with disabilities are excluded from education. Even where access exists, many face daily challenges due to inaccessible teaching methods, lack of trained staff, and persistent stigma.
Experts say the global learning crisis, which was exacerbated by COVID-19, cannot be resolved without removing these systemic barriers and addressing the diverse needs of all learners. Inclusive education must move from policy to practical, lasting change. Now let's go on a quick break. When we return, we'll be right back. Now, to our first news item of the day. At the 2025 Global Disability Summit, education unions called for stronger commitment to inclusive education and increased public investment in teaching and school infrastructure. The event, hosted by the International Disability Alliance alongside the governments of Germany and Jordan, gathered over 4,500 participants from 100 countries and resulted in 800 new commitments from governments, civil society, and the private sector. Education International, speaking through its Go Public Fund education campaign, emphasized that inclusive education is a fundamental right and essential to building equitable societies. Delegates advocated for a shift toward a social model of disability, removing systemic barriers rather than placing the burden on individuals. They highlighted the need for more trained teachers, better classroom support, and early inclusive teaching practices to ensure all children, including those with disabilities, are able to learn and thrive. Unions also noted the growing risk of inequality, particularly in conflict-affected regions, and urged collective action to defend and expand inclusive education policies. A study visit to inclusive schools in Solingen, Germany, followed the summit, offering practical insights into both the progress and challenges of making education accessible to all. Well, there is progress, there are challenges, undeniable. And I think what we're seeing from the unions is coming together to ensure that we have sort of a one mind in addressing these issues. What we saw there, we saw about 800 new commitments or thereabouts. And while that number seems to be high, it shows that there's a lot of work to be done to ensure inclusion. But then, when we see these commitments, one thing we always want to hear more about is what is the level of implementation? What is the will to get these things done? When you, for instance, we have issues where people can sign onto something, but if they don't ratify it, that's speaking about trade and other things now, but something can be drawn there when it comes to inclusion, where you can say, I agree that inclusion should exist, but have you taken steps to ensure that you are bound by what you have promised or pledged? So we look at how this should be done, and then diving into the specifics of it, that visit to the school in Solingen afterwards also showed that they were taking a look at practical ways this could be done.
Yes.
We've heard some, hopefully our guests will expand on that later, an educator, on how exactly each child with disability, special needs child, and all of that, how they can get to be seen, how they can have that individual experience when it comes to education. Because when you have a blanket method for everybody, a child can be left behind. And that's the message here today. No child left behind. So let's see how such coming together of different stakeholders will lead to better results. And when we hear of commitments and plans, 800 and thereabouts, we want to see actions afterwards.
Yeah, I like the word you used. You said blankets, blanket education. It means that we should not just cover up everything with just one blankets. If there are 1,001 children in this particular place, then it means 1,001 methods should be used to teach them, except if you have children who are right there and they have similarities to their plans when it comes to learning or their approach to learning, then we can be able to use one method to teach all of them. So it's really glad to see where the world is going to as regards inclusivity, especially in education that has the power to change the world. When you hear people saying education is not something that should be valuable, in Nigeria they'll say education is scam or something like that. But these days I'm liking to see that a lot of people are considering that this is not scam. This is something that everybody should be involved in, something that everybody should see that, okay, we have to, coming from government bodies to civil societies down to private sectors, everybody is coming together.
Even parents.
Yes, even parents. Parents are, when they say family is one of the #1 units that you can have. So if parents themselves can come together and say, my child, okay, has this disability, my child has this, can be able to come to the teacher and tell the teacher exactly what the needs of this child is. And after that, the teachers can say, okay, we can tailor our curriculum or tailor whatever method we're using to learn or using to teach these kids for this particular child. That child will come out very impressive, will come out very as excellent as they want that child to be. So I'm grateful for this, and I'm looking forward to this 800 persons and new governments and civil societies that have come together to pledge. I'm looking forward to them coming to implement it better. So, yeah.
Indeed. We will go on a quick break now. When we return, we'll delve into our next news item.
Welcome back. We'll go straight into our next story. The federal government has reinstated its commitment to building an inclusive and equitable education system where all learners, regardless of gender, disability, or socio-economic background, can thrive. Speaking at the opening of a 2-day capacity building workshop for special education officers from the 36 states and the FCT, Minister of State for Education, Professor Suwaiba Sehidu Ahmed, emphasized the importance of turning policies into practical action. The event, organized by the National Senior Secondary Education Commission, NSEC, focused on promoting inclusive, safe, and gender-sensitive learning environments across Nigeria. Professor Ahmed said Nigeria's national policy on inclusive education was designed to remove barriers to learning, ensure equity, and improve access to quality education, particularly for learners with disabilities and others facing systemic disadvantages. She also highlighted the complementary national policy on gender education aimed at eliminating disparities between boys and girls in education. Represented by Kende Osinake, Deputy Director of the Science and Technology Department, the minister urged stronger collaboration among school owners, development partners, and state governments to promote inclusive practices in schools. Executive Secretary of NSEC, Dr. Iyela Ajayi, noted that the workshop aimed to equip special education desk officers with modern tools to implement inclusive education and address gender-based violence. He stressed the importance of empowering frontline officers to ensure meaningful change in school communities. Also speaking at the event, Executive Secretary of the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, Ayuba Gufwan, emphasized the urgency of addressing challenges faced by Nigeria's estimated 35.5 million persons with disabilities. He expressed concern over the lack of accessibility features in schools and called for greater attention to inclusive infrastructure. The workshop marked a renewed effort by the federal government to ensure that no learner is left behind. You know, this is just what we were talking about earlier on the first story that we are just taking in Germany. Nigerian government, kudos to them, by the way, are not just saying that we are going to be doing this policy or not just leaving that policy like other policies, but rather they are coming to implement it to ensure that in our primary schools, our nursery schools, our secondary schools, this 35.5 million persons living with disabilities in Nigeria alone can be able to have accessible education. You know, when we're looking, we'll be like, okay, we have so and so persons who maybe they have dyslexia, maybe they are using wheelchairs, and the schools are not accessible to them, or people that are blind, they don't have the exact equipment that is needed for them to be able to study the courses they want to study, even in higher institutions like the university, or even in vocational places. But right now, we are seeing that the Nigerian government are saying we're not coming to play here. They are doing a lot of things, and this policy actually carries a lot of things, not just about inclusivity when it comes to people with disabilities, but also about gender. And including gender-based violence. Yeah. So there's a special education desk for these things. So if you're going to school and you're either a girl or you're either a boy, and you know that you're not being given the equal treatment you're supposed to give, because of your gender, then you can actually go to report and something will be done about it. It also includes if you're being violated because of your gender also, and not just about you facing some kind of struggle in your education, nobody's paying attention to you, you can also still go and pay attention to this. So this is beautiful. Other African countries can take cognizance of this and, you know, follow the steps that Nigeria is taking. By the way, we're the giants of Africa, and I see this as cementing the facts that we are indeed the giants of Africa when it comes to education. So I'm looking forward to better things that will be done in the education sector. Indeed.
And like you mentioned, 35.5 million estimated number of persons with disabilities.
Yes.
It's a lot. You can't ignore that demographic of your country. Even if they were lesser, they are no less important if their numbers are little. But that being said, I think the holistic approach to this is what must continue, you know, and things must turn from beyond just theoretical speaking and ideas to more practical ways.
Yes.
You know, there's complaint of infrastructure, complaint of other things. For instance, I know there was meant to be this sort of agreement or policy that involves stations, you know, also playing a part in ensuring inclusion. And I think those little things, like we might learn later, is just about also the need or the will to do them. It might seem like, oh, it's hard, you're stressing or whatever, but in the long run, doing it helps bring everybody together, because you have to put yourself in the shoes of the most marginalized person in the society.
Yes.
You know, you can't talk from a place of privilege and feel, well, everything is fine for me. Why do I need a ramp here? There's stairs. You know, why do I need someone to do sign language at this event when I can hear, stuff like that. You're speaking from a place of privilege. So it's important that when it gets to education, let's carry all the children together, because when you leave some behind, it leads to other sort of problems. There will always be funny characters, negatives, non-state actors who are ready to capitalize on the feeling of exclusion that any person or child may feel. So I think that's what needs to be worked on. And let's see how Nigeria can get this right as it continues on this path. Well, that's how we round off for this segment. We'll go on a break now. And when we return, we will be speaking to a guest on the matter. She's an educator. She's also an advocate when it comes to inclusive education. She's Agnes Ushuta. She will be joining us after this break. Don't go anywhere. Every day, amazing stories of hope and tenacity unfold across the globe. On Hude Hour, we dive into these inspiring tales and discuss the vital work being done in the humanitarian and development space. Humanity has never faced a shortage of challenges, yet we rise stronger through teamwork and determination. Though these remedies are often underreported, on Hude Hour, we advocate sustainable solutions. We bring you the latest and most impactful news on how lives are being changed. We engage with young change makers and experts who provide valuable insights into relief efforts and the challenges faced by local communities through a global perspective. Join us every Wednesday by 8 a.m. on Hude Network's YouTube channel as we embark on this journey of positive change.
Culture connects us beyond borders. It's a bridge between traditions, creativity, and the future.
Culture is alive, shaping identities and communities every day.
Art tells stories of resilience and vision.
Artists blend tradition with innovation.
Cultural preservation creates sustainability and empowerment.
Culture evolves and adapts.
Music and dance unites communities through movement.
And right here, in the heart of our cities, artists and creators are keeping these cultures alive.
On Culture Cove, let's explore,
Celebrate
and preserve the arts and culture that define us. Welcome back. Now we've been joined by an educator, an inclusive learning advocate, talking about Agnes Ushuta. She's joining us now to break down this issue of inclusive education. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for
Welcome.
having me. Thank you for
All
having
right.
me.
Okay, so let's go straight into it. If you can quickly lay out the progress made so far, where we are and where we ought to be as regard inclusive education and what it really entails in the long run.
Okay, thank you so much. I'd love to say that inclusive education spans beyond just registering learners who have special needs in school, which in most cases, that's what we see. Schools just want to bear the title, I have inclusive education in my class, in my school environment. So they get to enroll learners without actually preparing adequately for these particular learners. So inclusive education entails having an environment, a community that actually welcome these kids, and then these kids have the necessary resources and support to learn. The teachers are trained, the school environment welcome diversity, the learners are not stigmatizing them and they are not feeling excluded. And then learning is not just all size fits it all. Rather, learning is tailored such that it caters for their needs. So there is individualized learning plan, and there is also teaching the learners in the way they want to learn. That's what inclusive education means. So this is where schools have to get to. Let's not just bear the title of, I have learners with special needs in my school. No. What are these learners learning? What are they doing? What are you doing to make sure that they are actually a part of that community and they are learning what they need to learn, and they can actually stand out to compete favorably with other learners who do not have the needs that they do.
So very quickly, I'm sorry, Mokafe. Can you just give us some practical ways this can happen? Perhaps when you have children with disabilities, with disorders and all of that. What are some practical ways, some little tips you can give us so people get to understand?
We have learners who are sensitive to light, like what you have here. Yes. You know, when I came here, you didn't ask me, am I sensitive to light or I'm not sensitive to light?
I apologize.
That has to do with an inclusive environment.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in a school setting, you have to be mindful. Are there learners who are sensitive to the light you have there? So how do you create an environment that welcomes them to participate fully? Are there learners that are sensitive to noise? Do you have a corner where there is no noise, where they can go to when the noise is too much for them? Or do you have devices that are noise cancellation devices that these kids can actually wear on to avoid the noise that comes out? Or are there materials? Like we have different textbooks. You can't carry a normal book like what we have in our classrooms now and give to a child who is blind, for instance. How is that child expected to learn? Or using the same prints, say for instance, a 12 or 14
font size
for a learner that's we know is probably long-sighted or short-sighted. Yes. So this learner, you know for sure, needs something more legible. So how do you create a learning pattern such that, this child doesn't see clearly when the prints are tiny. So I have to make sure I have printed materials that are wide enough to actually accommodate the learner. So these are practical examples that we can have in class. The lights for special need learners, there are lots of them that are very sensitive to light and noise. So is your environment actually designed to welcome them? You know, I've come to understand that inclusion in the classroom doesn't necessarily cost us a lot. It's just about us determining to diversify, to think outside what we normally do, to move past our comfort zone and think about another person and bring that person in. That's where the diversity comes in the classroom.
Yes.
Thank you.
I really do like when you said that when it comes to diversity, it doesn't really need a lot. You know, people think it's quite expensive. I want to make my school inclusive now. It means I have to go this, go that, spend millions of money. Because of that, they'll be like, you know what? Let's leave this thing.
It's always a mindset thing.
Yes.
Once you have the mindset, the same learning plan you have, you can tweak it to actually accommodate another learner. Exactly. It's all about thinking about how does this other child learn? How can I include that to this lesson plan that I already have? And sometimes those things that we need to actually help that learner learn could just be around us, could just be even within the classroom that we are learning. But it's about we, the teachers, being intentional about making sure that that learner is not left behind. And most times we bring in the issue of equality.
Yes.
You know, there is a difference between equality and equity because this other learner can learn this way and we are expected to have equal right to education doesn't mean that we necessarily have to use the same material. The materials that work for you will not work for me.
Exactly.
So we have to find a way to make sure that I am teaching this particular lesson, but then I need to have a material that is suitable for each and every learner in that particular classroom at that particular point in time.
You know, Agnes Ushuta here is very, she shows that she's indeed a teacher. I'm learning a lot from you already. So I'd like to go further. As a Nigerian teacher that you are, and we ourselves as Nigerians, what better ways do you think teachers can be so practical when it comes to including these children who have disabilities? I know that you have mentioned somewhere where you say, okay, the lesson plan that you already have, how can you think somebody that is blind can be able to, you know, grab exactly what I'm teaching? Because while I was in the university, I had a classmate or a coursemate who was blind, and there were so many ways they had to do it. First of all, somebody from the class had to help him when he's coming to class, and during exams, the lecturers had to read out the questions for him to be able to type it out, type his answers and everything. So what better ways? Because a lot of people don't know that. So they see somebody that is blind and like, oh my God, how can he write his exams? How can he listen in class? He had a recorder to record the voices of the lecturers and everything. So what better ways can we make these teachers understand that these people with disabilities need a way to be able to understand what they are also doing in class?
Thank you very much. The key here is actually flexibility on the teacher's part and willingness to be trained. There are different trainings available for teachers to actually delve into. If you don't know it, you can actually collaborate with teachers or specialists who are actually adept in this aspects that you're talking about.
Yes.
That's the inclusive learning aspects. You don't just give up on the learner. That compassion that we have is what makes us teacher. Anybody can just give you what they want to give you and pass, but as a teacher, we want to go the extra mile to make sure that you learn. So if you have to go the extra mile, then it means that you have to train yourself and be ready to actually deliver at your peak. You know, recently I got an offer and I was expected, because it's an international offer, that I should jump into it. But I told the person, I said, I have actually gotten to this level in this aspect that you want me to take. If I am going to take it, is the organization offering further training? How far are you willing to train yourself to make sure that you are not just giving what you think should be given, rather you are teaching from a place of understanding and from a place of, oh, I've gotten the necessary training and resources required. And this, in inclusive education, as I said earlier, it's just a matter of mindset. Most of the things, like I said before, are within us. I had the opportunity of teaching in an underserved community. People believe that those things that these kids need to learn to have an inclusive environment are not there. But for my kids to be able to compete favorably with people outside, I have to make sure that I am able to give them based on what they have around them, because obviously their parents couldn't afford it. So it means I should be able to make sure that I bring that global stage to them. So I have to teach them in a way that they can compete favorably. And within the different things that we had in our environment, we're able to do that. Imagine kids who, from where they were, they're not opportune to see where different kind of processing is being done.
Yes.
I had to figure out a way to bring that processing to them. Let's take, for instance, Gary processing. I had to bring it to them, to their environment. Oh, we have a school farm. Our Greek teacher is there. Collaboration. We collaborated. They planted cassava. Okay, let's help you process this cassava.
Thank you so much, Agnes. I'm so sorry we've run out of time.
All
It was
right.
getting really interesting
Very.
there.
Thank
Hearing
you.
the innovative ways you are getting around providing inclusive learning for your students. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Every day, amazing stories of hope and tenacity unfold across the globe. On Hude Hour, we dive into these inspiring tales and discuss the vital work being done in the humanitarian and development space. Humanity has never faced a shortage of challenges, yet we rise stronger through teamwork and determination. Though these remedies are often underreported, on Hude Hour, we advocate sustainable solutions. We bring you the latest and most impactful news on how lives are being changed. We engage with young change makers and experts who provide valuable insights into relief efforts and the challenges faced by local communities through a global perspective. Join us every Wednesday by 8 a.m. on Hude Network's YouTube channel as we embark on this journey of positive change.
Culture connects us beyond borders. It's a bridge between traditions, creativity, and the future.
Culture is alive, shaping identities and communities every day.
Art tells stories of resilience and vision.
Artists blend tradition with innovation.
Cultural preservation creates sustainability and empowerment.
Culture evolves and adapts.
Music and dance unites communities through movement.
And right here, in the heart of our cities, artists and creators are keeping these cultures alive.
On Culture Cove, let's explore,
Celebrate and preserve the arts and culture that define us. Welcome back. It's time for our Verified Voices segment. We've been joined this time around by Joan Eze. Hello, Joan.
Hi. Hi, guys.
Hi, Joe.
You guys look so amazing.
And you look radiant in yellow. You should wear it every time.
Right? Thank you so much. All right. So we've been talking about, kudos to both of you. Been doing a very wonderful job. And of course, our guest actually made a very beautiful impact there. It's very important for us to see that everybody's been included in education, and there is no quality education when there is no inclusive education. And that's where I really, really stand. All right. So let's move straight up to our verified voices. We have. All right. So this is a tweet from ECW. A missing link for inclusive education, the importance of supporting teachers with disabilities to ensure learning for all. The new paper by the Learning Generation and more strategic partners highlights why inclusion in the workforce is key to building truly inclusive classrooms, drawing on evidence, policy analysis, and the voices of teachers. Well, this is what we're talking about, right? Including not just students or pupils, right? Also including the teachers in the system as well. Because when it's not only one particular set of teachers that should be in the classroom, also the disabled teachers should also, because they also have the capacity to impact knowledge as well. There shouldn't be any segregation at all. All right, so let's move straight up to the next verified voices that we have. Says education has become more inclusive in Mongolia with support from GPE's Education Out Loud. The country's civil society helped secure the right for children with disabilities to access regular schools. Now, children like Oyunjagal thrive alongside their peers. So this is what we are talking about, including children into the system. There should be no segregation. I think that's the major point of this particular tweet.
And you see there that it says that the country's civil society
Society.
played a role in this. And that's what we've been talking about. That this requires a multi-pronged approach. We're not just waiting on perhaps the government alone or state, civil society alone.
Sure.
It's a combination, because there we have that these persons are playing their role. Because what civil society basically does is sometimes apply pressure, sometimes give varying insights into how a thing is seen.
Statistics.
Because they are within the civil society, they are in the society, so they understand how things go. So the point of this is for the child there, the name is a bit difficult for me to pronounce.
Nigerian
But that one child has felt the impact of somebody caring enough to speak about it, to advocate, and to bring attention to it. So that's what we need.
I think, let me just bring in something a little bit emotional to both of you. I was watching the video of this same name that we can't really pronounce. And, she was expressing herself through the sign language, telling the civil society that actually brought her into it. And she was expressing how happy she is. And following the whole documentary, we saw how other students were also carrying her along. There was a particular clip where she was writing, and then the other students who was beside her had to tap her and said, okay, it's time to look at the teacher now. Let's try to listen. And she was like, oh, okay. And then she dropped her pen and then she started listening.
Yeah.
When it was even time to go for break, they went together. She's in the midst of other children. So there's no segregation. And this is what we're talking about. I think looking at this, what I deduced from that video is unity. Impacting in other kids that you shouldn't discriminate other children that are living with disability. Rather, you should embrace them into your circle and still treat them the normal way they are meant to be treated.
Yeah, I personally like the first tweet where it says that teachers who are also disabled should also be included in the educational system, because it's one thing to pass knowledge to people, but then when you just give them the knowledge and you don't give them an avenue to, engage that knowledge you're giving them, it's like giving them food and not allowing them to eat it. So I like the fact that these teachers are looking forward to being engaged even in the same space that they have been given power. So kudos to them.
That's correct. All right, let's take our final tweet from UNICEF. It says, I want to help people, says Shay, 7 years old Shay, who dreams of becoming a doctor despite facing the challenges of hearing impairment and autism. UNICEF supports inclusive education for children with disabilities in Cambodia, helping ensure that no child is left behind. I'll leave that to both of you.
Yeah, it shows that when children, this is why when we're talking with our guests, talked about early childhood learning and all of that. If it starts, from such an early age, it builds in them the need to help others. So what you see is Shay, when she grows up and she's, becomes someone bigger and whatever, she's looking, or they're looking to the next Shay. Who is that person who feels what I felt when I was there? And they're going to help more. So
and it goes on and on and on.
So it's good to start the cycle. That's why we're talking about education today, inclusive education, because obviously overall as a society, as a people, we need more inclusion for persons with disabilities overall. But when you start from education, you are building people who will then go on and continue the cycle of learning, the cycle of improvement and development of persons with disabilities.
It's one thing to teach people and ensure that people like Shay and get to where they want to get to, but there is a part where we often neglect. That's the part of mentorship. Now, when people with autism, people who also have to sign to be able to communicate, see that somebody like Shay, somebody like them, can also go ahead to become something relevant to society, then the sky is just a starting point, because they will always point out to Shay.
Like I said earlier, there is an inclusive education is a quality education. If it's not inclusive, it's not quality for me. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you,
That's the end of the very first
right. That's how we round off this segment of the program and the program indeed. Do join us next time right here on Hude Hour on Hude Network, where we break down issues in the humanitarian and development space. See you another time. Bye for now. I am Amadine Ubewe.
And I am Hannah Umokafa Danes. Have a lovely day.